This is a serious video.
Again, I say, this is a serious video.
Last time I shared a video showing some of my favorite book recommendations, and I forgot to show you my least recommended book. Hello, welcome to In the Mind of a Pianist. We've got a new camera, new lighting, and now some new microphones, and so I'm excited to hear how this turns out. I would love to show you a Nocturne, which is Opus 32 number 1. This piece is in B major. It's kind of an extraordinary piece. I think it's not one of the harder nocturnes, which can be good. Okay, when you're practicing this, you want to make sure that your nervous system is firing on all cylinders, meaning you're really concentrated, you're listening carefully, you're computing as much theory as you know, and connecting that knowledge to the sounds and to the feeling. Obviously, the more theory you know, the better. You're going to be better equipped. But I'm going to take you through some of these thoughts so you can get an idea of what kinds of thoughts you want to have as you're studying a piece such as this. We're in the key of B major, which means B major is our tonic, F sharp 7 is our dominant, and I want to take you through an exercise of listening to the B major sound contrasted with the F sharp 7 sound. And let me just give you a quick explanation. Imagine someone did not know what the color red was, and so someone else tried to explain it to them with as many words as possible. Just an exhaustive amount of information describing what the color red is. You could say it's vibrant, it's warm, it's bright, it's energetic, full of life, it's sweet and salty. I'm thinking of ketchup. All of the words you can think of. And then imagine that person they're armed with all this knowledge of what the color red is, but then they experience the color red. The question is, do they learn something new? And I think the answer is yes, that when you experience the color red, there are no words which can really describe that accurately enough. And it's the same thing with music. So I could tell you that B major, the tonic, is supposed to sound like home, but there's nothing like experiencing it. Now let's contrast this sound of home with the dominant sound. Whatever that sounds like to you, it is correct. Okay, so this is B major, F sharp 7, B major, F sharp 7, B major, F sharp 7. Okay, so train yourself. What does a tonic sound like? What does it feel like? What's the experience like for you? And the same with F sharp 7. That's the most fundamental relationship in all of music, a tonic and a dominant. Okay, at the beginning of this nocturne, Chopin is alternating between B major and F sharp 7. One feature of this nocturne which distinguishes it from the other nocturnes is that it has a music box-like quality. What does that mean? We're talking about, you could say, a childlike simplicity. Again, this is like trying to describe the color red with words. But also there are the elements of symmetry and balance. The fact that we have the tonic harmony for 2 beats and the dominant harmony for 2 beats and back and forth, we could describe that as an oscillating effect. Then when we look at the left hand accompaniment, we have these oscillating octaves too. Let's also look at two other moments from the first page. In measure 6, we have these two minor triads, a step apart, and in the same inversion shape. In measure 9, we have these two major triads, also in the same inversion shape, and also but a step apart. You also want to conceive of the piano sound before you play, because there's a boring way to conceive of piano sounds. But you can imagine orchestral sounds or something else, something more interesting. If you're just playing the notes, that's going to be pretty boring. Let me try to show you a boring conception of this music. Okay, I'm going to think of orchestral sounds. Would orchestral sounds work with a nocturne? Possibly, possibly. That's an interesting question. It is piano music. It's some of the most beautiful, exquisite piano music ever written. But we need to have an imaginative color palette. The sky is the limit, so make the sound imaginative, not boring. So in the beginning, the first thing you want to notice is that the low bass note is the tonic root. We have this B. It's not the lowest B on the piano, it's the second B on the piano. So that's important to take note of. The low bass note is the tonic root. This is true for nearly all of the nocturnes. And here, the sweet third, as we've talked about several times on this channel, is up on top. So that's the center of the chord. It's the sweetest sound, and that's where we begin. So that gives the music an immediate sweet voicing. You will see this voicing everywhere, and this thought is instrumental in helping you to learn and memorize, which are nearly the same thing, in my opinion. In the middle, we have the fifth. That note, that's the fifth of the chord. It is an oscillating octave, and I need to notice that the higher note comes first, and it sounds like this. Right? So he could have written the lower note first. And actually later on page 2, he does that. He reverses it. And that's one of the difficulties in this piece, is knowing it's going to reverse for a short phrase and then it returns to the original. But most of the time, or let's call this the normal way. The normal way, the upper note comes first. So we want to remember that sound. And that actually makes logical sense. Let's discuss the concept of development. The composer changes little things when the music repeats, which is a really effective tool to creating a sense of unfolding and storytelling. In this nocturne, you get a return of the theme on page 2, but for the first part of it, Chopin flips the accompaniment on its head. Instead of high, low, high, this time you play low, high, low. But then on the second part of the phrase, he returns to the original. This creates a little bit of interest, or you might say a lot of interest. It's a nice thing to notice, and it's a little bit challenging to be able to play it both ways and to do the right one at the right time. That's why we want to learn this piece slow fast. It's going to take a little bit of time to master that development detail, but you still want to learn the piece as quickly as appropriate. Notice also that the left-hand figure is framed within this dominant octave. So now I have a few all of the chord changes happen within this octave. And so my hand position never moves. My thumb stays on F sharp. So now I have a few clear structures to conceptualize, contemplate, and revel in. Notice that the next tonic bass note comes in measure 3, and this time it isn't in the low octave, it's just the low octave. So it's the third B on the piano. That bit of information helps me to memorize and learn it, just as the upper dominant note comes first. I like to marvel at the fact that these two features give the larger structure some exquisite balance. I just returned from visiting the terrifying Aztec pyramids outside of Mexico City, which haven't fallen in 7 centuries. Well, this fine-tuning is how the Chopin Nocturne doesn't fall down. My C sharp is a little softer than it should be. My piano tech is going to come help me fix that. But I can't blame him for not coming recently because I had COVID a couple of weeks ago, and it's understandable that he would like to avoid my house for a little bit. It's okay, Joseph, don't feel bad.
You've been doxxed.
Here's something to notice. In measure 3 and 4, we have an ornamented repetition of measure 1 and 2. A higher level conceptualization of this music will note that the end of these phrases should be simply played and don't make too much fuss about the final note. Instead, allow them to relax a little bit. The point here is that in music, not everything is a point of interest, and this is a common mistake with inexperienced players of Chopin, that they play every note with too much drama, instead of studying the structure and deciding where the drama occurs and where there are places to relax and simply float. Instead of playing every note with drama, focus instead on the concept of cantabile, which translates literally to a singing style, which means achieve and maintain a continuous sustained tone. It's hard to describe what this means physically. I like the way my teacher Philip Kaywin described it by saying, use one pressure. I like to note that the arm must be in continuous motion, and the wrist must be utilized to add and maintain the pressure and firm contact of the finger and hand with the keys. This mode of touch also facilitates the leverage between the notes, so you can move from note to note without breaking the pressure. I will sound like a broken record here, but it's important to say that this pressure is primarily arm weight and not muscular contractions. Our body's main job is to form a shape, stabilize that shape, and use correct and quality movements from note to note. Our body's job is not to tighten up and force this pressure to happen. It should feel relaxed, energized, and free. I also love to teach my students to utilize moving the hand forward towards the fall board and back to pull away from the fall board. This range of motion adds more possibilities of freedom and production of tone. You could also say play into the instrument. I like that. I like that way of saying it. You want to learn this nocturne slow fast. What does that mean, slow fast? Well, you want to take time and stretch it out. You want to take your mind and fire it up so that you are enveloping yourself in the music on multiple levels and in multiple ways. You want to be able to play half of the first page of music from memory as soon as possible without rushing the process, which means being very mentally thorough. Piece by piece, little by little, you are building your knowledge and memory about what happens first, second, third, hooks to remember it, and what it sounds like and why it sounds like that. If you take too long to learn something or try to learn too much of it at once, it won't be of good quality unless you are a gifted genius. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you on the next video.
to mute.